In the past few days and past few weeks and past few months, humanity has come to face something impressive, something which they have created names for it, and it's getting more and more complicated. The structures the world of science of today is dealing with, they have been given names of all sorts, as we have seen. One is called 3i, and something else is called the swan, because it was discovered by one of the systems, which is called the swan, and it's called the R2. And we see is puzzling the world of science. NASA, the world scientific world, is scratching their head. This is something new they never seen. They are not astronauts. They are not meteorites. They don't behave like one. They create direction of flight material in the front, the light in the front and the back. And we hear that there is a 17-minute gap between the pulses and all sorts of information is coming out. That is this system, intelligence system. Are these preset to be here? Initially was one, then became two, and now according to some data is a fleet of them. And interesting enough, the split now, the talk is that they're both heading to the back of the sun, and then we might see them coming out after a long time, or we not see them. We might do this, and one has already split. And we hear all sorts of things about this. I dedicate this teaching of today to this subject because when I've been following this for the past few weeks and waiting for it to become actually exciting and finding solution answers. If you as knowledge seekers go back over the teachings of past few years, every piece of what they're talking is strange is in teaching. Everything that we hear about this structure or these structures, it's been in teaching, in different conferences and different teachings and in public teachings, they've been referred to, they've been shown. And it's interesting that what you as knowledge seekers know through your knowledge is an amazing puzzle to the world of scientists of today. When I go through and I ask different knowledge seekers who have done transcription or have access to transcriptions to look into, find things, different one of them has come up with different pieces of information, which teaching, which section, which teaching, what time, when it speaks about UFO, when it speaks about the light, and the rest of it. And if you go back to the even last 2 years, even go back to last May in Beijing, go back to what we showed was done with the Chinese scientists, and we showed you what we call the data from analysis from laboratories, and then there are the videos which has been recorded. It gives you all the information. You, as knowledge seekers, are more advanced than the NASA, the European Space Agencies, the Chinese, and the rest. But the problem is, why I brought this, is that these objects are what you call UFOs. It's the first time we publicly are encountering them. It's the first time we have tools to observe them, and they travel at high speeds, as we all know. When you have dynamic systems like what we produce is there, but again comes to one point. They talk about object we see traveling at so many thousand kilometers per second, which is beyond our process. But it's exactly how it should. This is what we said, it takes a minute or two to the moon and back. Now they say this is what's going on. They explain scientists trying to find a way to communicate. Communicating with these structures need a way they can communicate, they can download, they can see everything. We have seen communication defaults on some systems where these systems are interacting, which means that upper atmosphere, very high level satellites are getting interfered with. Some military systems are getting interfered with and they don't know why. You all, as knowledge seekers, this is because these systems create magnetic fields. So jamming or covering is one of them. This is the way that the drone gets captured. This is how we fly without detection. This is how the lights are created. One of the biggest puzzling points with one of these systems is that it's in greenish color. And the other one has a huge amount of CO2 exhaust in the back of it, which is very unusual in such amount, and the rest of it. But to your knowledge seekers, you know exactly why. You know exactly why the color is green. You know exactly why it's traveling at high speed versus why there's no control. And step by step, when we go through this process of teaching of past 10 years, 20 years, everything we said is there. So our knowledge for past 20 years now is the puzzle of the UFOs and other things which they have to find out. Are the creatures with these systems? How come they mutate? How come in the structures we see amino acids very much to us? How come they create geometric dimensions and information? If you go back step by step into the teaching, for example, the structure of, we don't see what we call a bright light in the front, but we see a green light. The exhaust is like being at the front and the back, as always explained. In the aircraft, you see the exhaust at the rear. And with the UFOs, you see the light and then what you call interaction interfaces at the front, because you create a magnetic field front to eliminate, to create a dynamic situation like the atmosphere to burn anything. You always drive into the vacuum of the system. The whole structure, now what it is, puzzle, is something which we have taught. Why is this structure moving towards the sun the way it does? And is slowing down, it's changing direction, because in fact, if you look at this structure, it's very interesting. What the structure has in its embedded system is very simple. The systems has, and we see it in the structure in a very, very simple way. A system has a dynamic, magnetic, gravitational system. Is creating light, is creating a structure, dynamic, very much like this. It is a version of not very advanced system, but it's a version of intelligent system, where in fact the system sits mainly in this structure, and we don't see the physical UFO shape, but we see like a rock material, which is, it's in a way one of the primitive systems of the space travel, but on the other hand, it's one of the most useful ways to travel. The reason you see this, which man has never seen before, than the UFOs which you see shining on top of the Earth, on the Earth atmosphere, is that the shiny disks are signature of a clean environment. Earth atmosphere, we don't have rocks, we don't have things in it. In the depths of the universe, most of the UFOs fly with this structure like stones on them, or we see a lot of dentation on them. They look like meteorites, which has been hit, because this structure gives them protection. It's full of rocks. If anything happens in the dimension of their magnetic field, like Earth, like the moon, hits this material, doesn't hit the surface underneath. Inside sits highly intelligent system. Could be as many as 10,000, 20,000 living things in these systems, especially the big one. One has entered in one direction and one has, but both are going to meet in one position. Most probably, we will encounter them on Earth. That's for sure. This thing has not happened just for the sake of doing it. And when you look at this structure of the what we call creation of structure like this, dented or whatever, you all have seen. Now I give you part of an insight what you've seen. It brings a lot of science too. Go back to the teaching, or go back to the structure of what we showed. I'm trying to get rid of this thing. How do you get rid of this board on mine? Stop sharing. I gotta come back in again. Sorry. I deleted this. Every day they change this thing. As I said, let me learn what this thing is doing with us. Okay. As I said, we see a UFO center. In the universe, when you go across galaxies, your system stays the same. You need protection, so you create a body, what we see like a meteorite. Objects hit, they're embedded in this material. Interesting is, the data tells us this material is made, looks like nickel. And nickel at a high level radiation transfer of energy creates a green light when it's a magnetic field. So now we know why we see the green light with this object, why we see it the way as it is. The center is where action takes place. The rotation of the material is here. The UFO sits inside. When this material, when this object enters the Earth atmosphere, we will lose 100% this structure. This will go away. And what we will see is the UFO. According to what we have, if there is a plan in this structure to meet with humanity, they're on their way. The bigger structure we see, which is coming, they call it R2 or 3, this one is coming from dimension of the old structure systems, which is the spherical system, extremely long and extremely accessible to its own position. Again, looks like a rock, because again, the actual structure sits inside. If, and most probably it is no if, it's a reality, we are destined to have the first encounter with what you call aliens. Maybe for the first time we do. All the signs of the scientific data we have indicates so. How do we communicate? How do we reach them, and how do they reach us? And what is the next step in this process? We have shown how to build the structure around this. You saw this, but you never understood. You were puzzled when we put the star formation in Beijing and we collected the materials in public, you saw. In reality, this is a UFO. And in essence, this is what sits in one system in one of these. How they create this material around it and the shape of UFO is what the humanity needs to learn. In the next few minutes, we'll show you a video so you get a good grasp of what it is. Then we show you a second video that you understand how structured outer fields are made. Because you've seen it, you've done it, and everything else. And then the papers which you all have seen, we've shown it in public, confirms why these things have amino acid. They have a structure of life. I go back to the beginning of the talk, and you will understand step by step what was to come, what is to come, and what the knowledge, we'll call it Keshe team's research, is developing, that you will understand. In Beijing, if you remember, in the 3 days production of material, we had star formation. You saw materials on the table, which were put in hundreds of spoons and given to all of you. But in the video we show you, which was taken by the Chinese military in July of 2023 in northern China, in the gold mine section, we showed, video recording will show you during the session today, that when the systems you saw in Beijing, some of it came from the test of the year before, 2 years before, in north of China. And another one came from the Jindao demonstration for Chinese government, militaries, and the rest. When we have these systems, as you saw in Beijing, materials don't come here. Materials fall in here. In the video you'll see, and you hear the sound of Chinese generals in the background, and you hear the voice of Wang Lin, and others we have released before, you will see exactly what happens. How these materials and how the shape of the UFO is made, there is no aircraft manufacturing. Aircraft manufacturing is the job of the man. The world of space, those who will come to encounter, hopefully, don't have factories to build the 9-10 kilometer spaceship. You can imagine you need giant men to do it. It's actually done by a smaller reactor than what we showed. All you do, you position your reactors, and by changing the strength or distancing the position, they give you the UFO shape. First is of the fields. When you confirm this is a field and the size of the craft we need, then you change to the second level, which you lot saw in Beijing. Now we change the dimension of the systems into material size. So now the material will rain from all over according to the field, and with the dynamic structure of the field inside makes the shape of the UFO. This is how these systems are manufactured. This is how these systems are developed. And then now we have the UFO, which is center of one of these stones, which is coming. We see it, they call it like a meteorite, but it has all the intelligence. Now you change again the parameters. You add the third parameter, which allows you to rain material. Any structure you like. On Earth, bound magnetic field, metal of the sun, which is the pulling point of our system, we need iron. And this iron has a very specific characteristics that at 56 in iron or 56 in nickel, both this needs radiation level. This is a metal. And this N56, is as a metal, but N56, which this system is carrying, heading towards the sun, creates the gravitational magnetic field in the dynamic condition of the center of the sun. It's not burning any fuel. This magnetic field created, and the material around it is getting pulled by the magnetic gravitational field of the sun. And they tell us it's traveling with the highest speed. Yes, because all it does, the individual or the soul or whatever in charge is just playing to create the dynamic fields of the iron. On nickel strength, what they call 56. So now we know why it's green, and we know why it's heading towards the sun. And as it approaches to the center of the solar system, they're changing. The speed changes continuously. In a way, they entered the solar system, they gathered that way, they change position, and the step shows, to what we understand, this system is heading for Earth. The big dentation we've seen on the surface of it, we can create. I'll show you how, because you have seen it, you know exactly what it is. And I'll show you some other materials which, in a way, you lot have seen before. I'll come back to this picture. Rick, if you can take a picture of this and then bring it back up, that we don't lose it. And we can, what do you call it? Let me just increase it. If you take a screenshot of this, that we can bring it back up later on. Is it okay?
Yeah, just bear with me a second here while I get things lined up. And
if you want to do it this way, it's easier for you.
Okay, I got what you have there.
Okay. So now, how you see this material here and how is material there is what you as knowledge seekers have seen before. In a way, if you look at it, I go back on a few pictures that you knowledge seekers, let me see what I want to show you and how I want to show you. Let's see, play the game in a different way. And we go at. If you look at this picture, I have to stop the sharing this one and go back on it again. Let me see, where is the picture? The way I wanted it. We're going to you've seen this before. Cropped. I have to turn it. I'm trying to turn this image. 1 second. Okay. This image now is correct. I can share with you in the Zoom. When you look at this picture, you know exactly how we go, where we go, and what it's supposed to be. We showed you in the structure before that how they build this structure. When you create the right magnetic field, when you create the right structures in the process of the system, you can literally build anything around you. You create material, you create dust, you create curvatures, you can create a shape and patterns, and I'd like to do it. I'm sorry about this. I'm just trying to change the sequences. You get the right combination. Okay, now we come to this. This picture you all have seen, we published it before. We have produced this material, 3 different materials. It was done in China in 2023, July 2023, and repeated again and the second time, 2024, and the 4th time you are knowledge seekers saw it in Beijing. So this is the material that we produced. Now remember that UFO I showed you, you create a dimension of the material. Now these materials rain upon you and stay on it, they make an outer structure. Now we show you how the structure is made. Then what we do, as you've seen, this is a structure. This is literally gold as a plate getting developed. So now that you created that material, you rain the fields in, you see the dots of gold, and you see the gold in that, inside carbon-14. So we've seen the dust, we've seen how the material is made. What is interesting, you see more material. So you can produce different materials according to what you need. This is the pile of the material which is on the table. As I explained, if you create a dynamic system in air, this material would stick on the dynamic structure of the fields and become the solid body of your aircraft. It doesn't fall on the floor. Now, let's go one step further. You can see here, we can shape the material. You see the structure, you can shape it. I'm waiting for your pictures to change because you have one picture behind me. Okay, you're there. You see this material has a shape, but look at the bottom picture. You see the different material shape. And now you can see. This is a very interesting part. This picture you never seen, and it's for the first time we show. If you look at it, it looks like a salt. It's a solid structure. But this structure is mono material and creates like a hill, like a horn out on its own on the surface during the process of production, like these do. You have a delay on you not seeing this. What is interesting, you see this white material. Rick has a video. We show it to you, and then you see how material is made on this meteorite looking UFO which is coming to us. Rick, would you like to play the video? This is from one of the productions of materials. And you see how it just builds up. It's a recording of one of them. Just builds up out of nowhere. We have a number of videos like this. So building material in a structure is not difficult. Now we know what these systems, especially 3i, has built this structure, why it looks the way it does. But inside sits a UFO. Inside of it sits a very familiar system that, would you like to give it back to me if you can, please?
I think you'll just have to take over the share.
You have to delete it and I can take over the share. I shared.
Okay, let me see. I don't know if I can delete the share. I think you just have to reshare.
I think you have to let the share going, then I can take.
I can do multiple panelists can share.
Go back to your normal screen, please, and then I can take over.
Okay, let me see here.
Okay, let's see if I can share this time. Nope, I'm not allowed to share. Something happened.
Not allowed to share. Let me see. See, there must be something not. Do you want to start the video? Is that?
No, I want to share another system.
Yeah. Sure. Let me see. How did you do it last time? Did you have
Oh, it's done. It's okay. I took over.
Okay.
It's with me now. Okay. It's done. Okay. Now what you see, for sure, 100%. Not even 99%. This is the system inside these two meteorites. It carries a star formation of this, and because it has a fourth dimension to it, creates its own emotion. But interesting is, if you go back to what we saw in Virgin, you see something very interesting. As I said, this is like the gold made, and you see the spots and dots of gold. You are behind me. Somehow I cannot. Okay, you are back here with me. As you see, material is made. The dust coming around it gives it that roughish look that you see. And you saw the reactor produces it. But interesting point with this is this data. NASA scientist and the other scientist tells us that this object, especially 3I, has amino acid. This data is 11th November 2023, done by the Chinese military. This is the material they took from the test in northern China. They test to see what's the composition of it. And as you see, it's Chinese. It's got a, on the corner bottom side, seal of a stamp, which is official. And what is interesting is this. Have a look. It has everything. Copper, zinc, iron, selenium, nickel, magnesium. Everything is in it. The most beautiful part of it is, in every piece more or less where you look, you see oxygen, SNO2, ZNO, CuO, FeO. And what is more interesting is this data. Gold, carbon 14. And the most important part is now we know this system on its process creates systematically materials of life. It produces in the shape of itself, if you look at it, the cornerstones of life on Earth. It has entered atmospheric condition of the solar system and it mutates to it. It picks up its intelligence, it picks up its language, it picks up its knowledge, and at the same time it carries the knowledge of the universe. It is extremely intelligent because he has access to not only the knowledge of the man, he can converse in our language and knows what we think, but he has access to the knowledge of universe. He knows where he came from. And for sure, the technology carried by this system is at intelligent level of us and higher. The only way our governments or citizens of Earth will be able in one way or another to communicate with these structures is if they decide to copy us. If they decide to approach us. And we have seen in the past few days, for 17 minutes, the system disappeared off the radar, of the whole screen, shots across the universe, solar system, and the rest of it. There is a reason that this craft carries a 17-minute cycle. We know this because in one of the tests we did with you, we used the what we call fraction of it because it was more applicable, and we done the same 17 minutes before. It's recorded in our data. The 17 seconds and the 17 minute creates emotion. So these people, whoever they are, they're learning about the emotion of man. How we feel, how we think, and how everything about us. We see a geometrical, emotional system. So replication of making with what we've seen on the table, human-like, human intelligence, is absolutely no problem for this. The question which is to be answered is, why now? Why at this moment? And why humanity? And as we've seen with the following satellites, which is following the 3I, which is a large number of them, has been blocked by a lot of nations not to create panic, all carry the same intelligence and all follow the same route and structure. It is good to say the teaching has brought man to become part of the universal community, to understand it and be ready to become part of it. But as I said before, the knowledge humanity carries now is one step ahead of this system. Go back to the teaching of the past few weeks and months. If you recall, I said, if they are carrying or travel in UFOs, they are still behind the intelligence of transmutation. And that knowledge has been given to the man. I said to a scientist in the past few days, are they here to learn how to transmute? Because they know how for sure to transport. All the dents and all the bits we see on the surface of these objects, the shape of it, if you just look at the shape we are looking at, they feeding us with, is very much a UFO inside. elongated UFO. And it's one of those long, short flight systems. And it has reduced speed as has entered what we call the solar system. And the giant one, which has come from the Paris, has characteristics of the mother, the main shell. It's very possible, extremely possible, that the two are from two different parts of the universe or this galaxy, and as part of what we call like Universal Council, there's a meeting to sort out human race. As I said, we are here to take man to become part of the universal community. And to this level, I have taught you enough to be ready for that. To understand the knowledge and not be baffled why they are and how they are. And how they travel at these kind of speeds. These systems outside solar system travel with much higher speed. That's why we never observed them from the point where they came. They became visualized to us as they reduced the speed to enter the solar system. Otherwise, they would have flown through it. The direction of the fields of especially 3i shows moving towards direction of the center and separation of what we saw, the second split, they're going to be third split, is that they're sending satellites. They're sending same objects as themselves in a smaller way, in a way subsystems, most probably to land on the planetary system. We should see more breakup, as they call it, but they don't understand these are, again, UFOs covered in the same, they behave the same. Follow this material, follow how a lot of information suddenly has become scarce because governments are scared of what is coming in. It's a swamp of them. It's not 3i anymore. It's 3i and a few hundred 3i babies behind it. The purpose is very clear, but we understand and acknowledge it. And at this moment of time, we have the technology to communicate and their strength to convert it to the language of the man. Systems are getting built for this purpose. And so, what is interesting for you as knowledge seekers is that with you having this knowledge, with you understanding what is on the table, are you ready to meet your family? Are our governments ready to meet our family? When these people land, when people come, they'll ask for one person only, which is trusted and is placed by them, through them on this planet. And that person will become the spokesman between the universal community and the human race. Obligation of obedience comes out of respect and not out of fear. And they will rule through emotional understanding with a physical presence. Where, as knowledge seekers, you've been taught how to command the emotion through the soul. So, human race is centuries ahead of these people. They're still depending on aircrafts, and many of you have transmuted. My hope is that humanity understands this. My hope is that humanity will have the knowledge to understand this. And are we able to handle this? Are our governments ready to handle this? We have seen these structures jamming computers, electronic systems. We have seen these people disappearing themselves, which we know how it's done. We've seen these people traveling at the speeds beyond what we know. And we need to understand that we are ready. The human race has no choice. But with this cycle, if they decide to meet the men of the universe, this time we are not looking how the pyramids made, we are not looking how structures are made, we are not looking anything else. They are looking how humanity has accessed the knowledge of transmutation. This time, they are the knowledge seekers. Where, by what I showed you, with the production of gold, with the systems in China, and many others which you have tested, we pass to a mission of physicality. They want to know how you knowledge seekers transmute and what is needed. You are the darlings of the space at this moment of time. And by law of the universe, this is not the Robin Hood time, and this is not the Queen Victoria time to steal and become good. They work on the ether of thou shalt not steal. And this time, humanity has the knowledge and upper hand in being the teachers. The only thing we don't have is to be man of peace. And interesting enough, if you as knowledge seekers understand what knowledge has been shared with you, you are decades ahead. You are decades ahead. You are centuries ahead. Now what I told you, and I keep on telling you and repeat myself, we have taught mankind transmutation. In the essence of the emotion of the energy. And in that process, we have learned a lot. These structures, even though UFO looking, once they enter the atmosphere of the Earth, when they enter the atmosphere of the Moon, Mars, and our scientists be able to follow them, they will see what you've seen UFO. Up to now, we always considered UFOs. Now your knowledge has extended that these people put a space jacket on their system, travel like meteorites. This is one of the reasons the world of science has never been managed to see them. We always considered that in the far distance, they're much to do with us, very small, and they pass. They look like a rock. But this time it's not. What has concerned me is why 3i is holding its cylindrical shape. And why has not opened up into a spherical shape. It's traveling higher speed. It needs to, if you remember, book number 2 is in the highest speed travel. That's why it's doing it. Doesn't need a broad shape. And when it reaches Earth, will go into the spherical shape. It will take its shape and it will change its shape to this configuration that we are used to as UFOs. And we are going to watch this. We are going to monitor this, that how, especially 3i, which is equipped to land in atmospheric condition. The other one, the Swan, is not and cannot land. It's too big to land on any surface. It's a spaceship carrier. It's a mothership. And the Swan is what you call one of his proteges, one of the children of it. And we expect the two to meet somewhere. They say they meet behind the sun that we cannot see them. If they came this far, they're not scared of you seeing them anyway. And or are they going to the Earth atmosphere, rendezvous, they meet in the solar system atmosphere, rendezvous, and they go, or is there a plan to land on the Earth? The speed has been reduced. The especially 3i reacts to intelligence, reacts to communication, and as it's a dynamic system, carries gravitational magnetic field, and it has the ability to produce amino acid. It has the ability to create your neighbor without you knowing. Next few weeks will be interesting how the governments will look at this, how we as knowledge seekers understand this, and how, for the first time, we have seen a UFO which is going right through us. To what we understand from the knowledge we have, these systems should not convert. They are on a track, rendezvous, leaving the solar system, maybe releasing a couple of smaller systems to land on Earth or Moon to explore, but there is a bigger job with them. There's 2 or 3 reasons we see this, but possibly they land, is that the trajectory and the dimension is going out towards another galaxy. It's just like refueling, it's like exchanging something. And they're not scared of us. They don't need to go to the back of the moon to change clothes. They're the beach lovers, they do everything in front of the sun. And the interesting thing for us is how this technology, which we understand is a puzzle to the world of science, and we still see opposition that our technology is something they don't understand. Because if you understand our technology, you understand the system. All of you do because you've done it, you've made it, you've seen it. Some of you are part of this development. It's not me saying so anymore. And it's not just because we think so. You saw the production of the materials opening for 3 days in Beijing. If I would have brought a different combination of set of fields, these particles would have been floating, they wouldn't land. And because of the dynamic fields, they would have floated at a given orbit, like the ring of Saturn. And you would have seen the structure. So be ready for a lot of surprises. Be ready for a lot of changes. Be ready that possibly for the first time, mankind will come face to face, directly, with the system of the universe. We'll see them as the passengers of these ships. We might feel their existence, but for sure, these systems are there to bring a new change to us. But with what you know as human race, they're here to pick up your brain, the emotion of transmutation. If they had it, they wouldn't travel in these old grotty systems. To you who looks at us, and to our NASA and American scientists and Chinese, is something unbelievable, but we always told you can travel with the speed of light. This guy is not matched it yet, is trying to do 60,000 kilometers per second. He's trying to go faster because you could have gone faster, wouldn't have seen him. You would have been lighting through. So we are, if you come to it, we'll meet men of space, not much more intelligent than man, but they have managed to understand the system and build it. But now they're after your brain, how to transmute. And that's their problem. Up to now, you've been the following. Now you have followers, but you have to understand how to transmute. And hopefully, in the coming time, you will see. We have chosen a video taken in July of 2023, which shows the raining of gold from the space. And this is videos with Chinese military, Chinese generals, all being part of this test. And the reason we will show this video is getting exported to RIC, that you will see is not a fairy tale, but me tell you, you just need to create a dynamic field of the dome. And the material will go by the magnetic field strength, will not convert to material. Most always show on itself on the silver color, because it's the characteristics of that, what it shines by. And you were too busy watching what material goes on the spoons in Beijing, but we were invited at night to the position by the military. We had to drive 60-70 kilometers to get to the position. As they call us, they said it's raining gold everywhere. And we went there, you hear the voice of Anglin and Chinese officers to see how does it feel to rain gold from the skies. Once Rick receives this video, it's about 5 or 8 minutes, 10 minutes. We'll let you see it. And then you understand that if you add a balloon of the fields in the center of this rain, you will make the UFOs. And if you add a second dimension of fields, as you saw copper, zinc, and nickel, and everything else, you will produce it as an outer shape. In a way, you hide yourself inside. And what is interesting is how this material rotates. I'll explain to you somewhere in the future why this material rotates in the dimension of physicality which is going, and why its other partner is actually moving in a different shape, different size, and they have a rendezvous. Would we see transfer of light objects from one to another? Would we see amalgamation of the two, that one enters, the other one lands inside? Or would we see them crossing each other, two ships in the oceans? Either way, whatever happens, the fundamental knowledge of this technology is in the hand of the humanity. We understand it. We have offered the Chinese government, military this morning, if they want to do, or we shift it back to United States, to NASA, to collaborate, to bring these systems and other agencies like the Union Space Agency to be able to communicate, to replicate, and the rest of it. What we showed was impossible. Now it's been seen. Now the knowledge has to be understood. And the Keshe Foundation knowledge seekers have the knowledge. No need for rocket propulsion. As the gravitational magnetic field of the sun, if you match it, pulls you, you don't need to burn it. And we see it now. They tell us more. Governments are scared of what they are observing. Government are censoring a lot of things which is coming with the system. What is their main concern? They tell us, they said initially that it could be because of the proximity of the two, what we call solar systems, and the rush of meteorites, as we explained before. Now it's been accepted. Or it is, as we see it, for the first time encountering another intelligent, another life. It can change. It has amino acid combination from its structure. It has intelligence because it changes position, continuously reacts. Is an interactive system, and you can only be interactive if you have intelligence and life within you. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm right. And maybe if they decide, we'll have the pleasure of meeting one of us as created things of the Creator on this planet, which we didn't know. A bigger family, bigger structure. All depends how much more this I3 or 3I will release more to land. But what is interesting is how they disappear. There is a reason for 17 minutes. We know that fully. It has been tested in our systems, and we have tested what we call 17-second phenomena with a specific reason. The reason for it is what we call, we wanted to understand how this factor of 17 affects us. A factor of 17 works in our system, and is factor of 17 how it affects our position. There is a reason we use this 17 figure, because I have to tell you, the test for the 17 was done on the 6th of May. We did a test. I show you, because we are very straightforward with a lot of things we do with you. It says, for you to understand, and one day I explained why. I try to bring it for you. This is a communication, internal communication within a Keshe Foundation research team. And we understand the reason for this. Why scientists are seeing 17-minute pulses. And why this is important to a lot of our work, because 17 has a significant scientific reason. And what this does to a lot of you, it has a psychological effect. And it has a specific characteristics on the body of the man. And it does a lot of things which brings a lot of emotion into play. And I have cleaned some things out that you cannot see because it's an internal research data. And I show you how, what the world of science is looking for, what it means, these 17-minute gaps, and what it does, the purpose of it. When I saw the report of NASA and this 17-minute gap, I said, this cargo carries life, because this is the characteristics. It's part of our knowledge. This is one of the communications of the Keshe. During a test, he says, keep that. Now add this to physicality in 5 minutes with the same and plus 17 gap. And you see the graphs. And you can see. is done. For those of you who understand this, for those of you who understand the process of you as knowledge seekers, is that we are dealing with a living entity above us, from another planet, from another place in the universe where we understand their technology. We understand, and we are far ahead in every aspect of their knowledge. And unfortunately, our governments prefer to ignore it because ignorance is a bliss. My feeling is that this structure is not hostile, but curious to know how he can interact with humanity. If it was hostile, he would have made a different move. He would have used a different gap. It would have used different configuration. It looks like a homeless, or it looks like for someone running to see the mom. And it carries the characteristic of curiosity, kill the cat. Because it's releasing little babies to learn and enjoy. It's just like going on an excursion and everybody gets off the boat. You can go and come back with the mini boats. Get off the ship. I hope we have achieved, and I hope humanity is ready for this to come, and I hope we'll be peaceful enough to meet our fellow people of the universe and move into the next level. Not only we are hungry for this, but we are hungry for peace. And is the appearance of this a coincidental with what's happening in the human race? And are we ready to accept the change? Rick, have you received the second video? Have you managed to download it?
See, I'm just checking here. I haven't received a new video yet.
Okay. Tell me 10 minutes. Hopefully after the break we can have a look at it. This video is important because it shows how we pull materials, and if we add the additional system inside, we can create the dynamic field of the space gap, structure material production. And this is one of the characteristics of this system. And the material, the behavior, the change of course step by step, it shows if this system does not land, we cannot land on Earth, it's impossibility, it's too big. It will affect all of us if it does. And the magnetical-gravitational field bringing it into upper atmosphere will damage all our communication system. Possibly, if we come to an interface, will be through smaller spaceships, smaller units, as we've seen already, divided. The scientists don't understand it. There are pictures on the internet, you can see the split. There's actually a UFO inside the small system. It's just like coming off it. They will land with us because they can pass through. We might see some damages, some of the satellites, because of their going through the system. And having some 15,000 satellites orbiting around the Earth, it's not easy to go through without interacting with something. And if he does, if he happens, then we see the new cycle. Most probably we'll see them in the northern, what we call northern hemisphere and the North Pole, and the southern hemisphere and the South Pole, because there's less of what we call satellite interference. This is why they say they see a lot of what they call UFOs in Argentina and the other parts in southern poles, or the interaction in northern poles, because of the field, strong magnetic fields. And secondly, now this is mainly satellites. There's less obstacle in the poles. We see what comes up, but the knowledge of it and the understanding of the knowledge is all in our hand. Is how our governments will build and how our governments will react to this amazing interaction between the man and the man of space. I don't think we'll see a human face, but I'm sure we'll see a face of the universal community builders. We go for a break, we come back, and hopefully in the second half, Rick will have the video to show you how it raised and how, when we add a system inside, will allow us to create that elusive silverish goldish color which we call UFO. And now for the first time you understand UFOs don't travel with a bare skin in the space, but they travel the way we see with both of these universal units and their children which is behind them. We go for a break and we come back, and hopefully we'll learn a little bit more.